Watching Volk fight is a work of art. You know those videos where some master piano player plays some random piano in the middle of an airport or a mall or something, and then everyone just stops what they are doing, watching in amazement? That's how I feel watching the champ. Except this ain't no piano, this is the toughest sport in the world, and he's facing the best guys in the world. But it's not really back and forth ever. Even if you get a leg up on Volk, you might just end up losing that leg. So what is it? What makes Alexander Volkanovski so good? Well, you've come to the right place because I'm gonna tell you. To answer that question, we gotta go back to 2010 when Volk was building a rock-solid base to become the man he is today by playing a different sport, rugby. Rugby is basically football without any padding or helmets. Yeah, okay, you throw the ball differently and the game has different rules, but it's basically savage football. Volk started playing rugby when he was 14 and did it all the way until he was 23, and even though Alexander is only 5'6", there was a point where he was 214 pounds, and you could take a good look at the guys he's facing. Monsters. Volk actually won the Mick Cronin medal as the league's best player, and constantly running, smashing, and taking down these huge guys built the foundation for him without him even realizing it at the time. Once Volk switched over to MMA at 23 years old, facing guys who were 145ers were just too easy for him to throw them around. He admits to that too, saying, quote, "It's made me a strong type of guy. I'm used to them big boys there, and even now when I fight these featherweights, I've always been used to wrestling and going against the bigger boys, so it's made me tough and even maybe confidence-wise it helps." Okay, I know what you're thinking. Just because someone plays rugby doesn't mean they can be a world-class champion. I know, you're right. There's plenty more that goes into Alexander's success than just rugby. I'm gonna give you an underrated and untalked about reason that contributes to his prowess in the octagon. Ready? His height. I calculated the average height of the top 15 featherweights in the UFC, and the average is 5'9". Alex is 5'6". That's a 3-inch difference, which some may view as a disadvantage, but I believe it's the other way around. There are so many advantages to being a shorter fighter that people don't realize. You're harder to submit due to shorter limbs, harder to take down due to a lower center of gravity, punching down at your opponent gives you less power and is much harder than punching up, and the most crucial reason of them all is when someone shorter gets in your striking parameter, you are in deep trouble. When Volk is in the perfect striking range, his opponent is in an unideal position. Take what happened with Yair Rodriguez last weekend. Yair is 5'11". When Volk is in the pocket, Yair loses all pop to his shots. He can't kick and can't get nearly as much power from any strike other than an elbow. Volk, on the other hand, it's exactly the opposite. Volk can still fully extend his punches and kicks and obtain full power while still having the option for a takedown, which many of his opponents fear. Being shorter in fighting isn't the problem it's made out to be. Yes, if you have someone who is long and uses the range perfectly, that can be a huge threat, like John Jones or Israel Adesanya, but the key to defeating these guys is either being just as tall as them, but more effectively being much shorter. In our sport, we can look at DC, for example, double champion who was way shorter than anyone he fought and still smoked, well, almost everybody. If we look at boxing, you already know who I'm gonna say. Jake Paul. Nah, for real though, Mike Tyson. Mike was way smaller than everyone, and look how dominant and terrifying he was. Okay, enough about Volk's physical attributes. It's time to talk about his actual skills. Let's start with his striking, because it's criminally underrated. The reason Volk's striking accuracy is so high at 57% is because he sticks to the basics. You never see Volk throwing spinning heel kicks or spinning elbows or flying knees. It doesn't mean that he can't, he just sticks with the most effective, non-risky striking there is. We all love the flashy moves, they are exciting and they're unpredictable, but they can get you in a lot of trouble. Remember when Chris Weidman threw a spinning wheel kick at Luke Rockhold, only for literally 1 minute later for him to lose his belt? Yeah, even Rogan couldn't believe it. Why take that risk even if you are well trained for it? Let's take a look at Yair Rodriguez again, and I hate to keep bringing him up, but it falls into my point perfectly. He tried some flashy moves on Volk, but none of it worked. Mastering the basics is what leads to a perfectly rounded fighter. You know who's a great example of this? George St. Pierre. GSP wasn't the best striker in the UFC, and he wasn't the best wrestler, but when he put it all together, he was an extremely tough puzzle to solve. GSP earned his GOAT status by sticking to and mastering what works. It's the same for Volk. Not only is Alexander striking great, his wrestling is too. But instead of explaining how he's a great wrestler, let's reveal how he can keep a striking and wrestling clinic on his opponents at all times. Cardio. Volk's gas tank is phenomenal. Upper echelon. The only time I recall seeing him tired was against Chad Mendes, but that was 5 years ago. Since he became the champion, have you ever seen him get tired? I don't think so. Even after his fight with Islam, which he supposedly lost, Alex stood tall, giving an interview being humbled in defeat, and meanwhile the winner of the fight, Islam, needed to be held up just to stand there. That's sus. My last reason for Alexander Volkanovski's success is his fight IQ in defense. Every champion has a high fight IQ, but sometimes they still get caught. Volk is always switched on, a phenomenon in fighting where mentally you are there the whole time. Fighters like Conor McGregor and GSP have talked about this before. Alexander is always locked in, and that doesn't only lead him to cruise through these fights and win every time, but it allows him to not get hit very often. His incoming strike defense is just under 60%, and if you compare that to other guys, that's a really impressive number. Getting hit less means more longevity, inside and outside the cage. In a sport where the athletes are the toughest in the world, you don't want to prove how tough you are by taking a lot of shots. And although Volk does have a great chin, it doesn't get cracked often. Overall, Alex deserves his spot as the pound for pound king. Before his last fight, they gave John Jones this title, and although John is amazing, he should have never been placed above Volk simply due to the activity in the promotion. Now they're both number one? I don't know why they did this. If you watched this video all the way to the end, I appreciate you for real. And you can let me know if I missed anything or what you thought of this video because I read every comment. Please subscribe because it really does mean a lot to me, and I'm focusing all of my time on long form content instead of the shorts. So if you want more videos like this, please drop me a like and maybe a subscription. Peace!